Today we're going to be talking about what they don't tell you about flipping houses. And for those of you that hang around to the end of this segment, I'm going to give away a free creative real estate investing webinar that you're going to love. Today we're going to talk about some of the things the real estate investing gurus don't talk about very much. These are the things they don't tell you because, quite frankly, they're difficult, they're tough, and they're hard, and it's not glamorous. Some of the things we're going to talk about in this segment are like the difference between cash and cash flow. We also want to talk about bad partners and untransparent bookkeeping, and we'll want to talk about why it's so important to have large margins in this business. One of the things a lot of the gurus don't really want to talk to you about is the difference between cash and cash flow. If you're constantly doing a strategy that just produces cash, then really all you have is a glorified job. Now, it might be a high-paying job, but it's still a job because every time you buy that house and fix it and sell it, you got to do it over again, and it's not going to do it by itself. You're going to have to get up off your butt and go do it again. Every time you wholesale a house, it's done, it's over. You got your check, you're going to have to do it again. Sooner or later, it's going to dawn on you that you'll need to invest in a strategy that you work one time and it pays forever, or it pays for a very long time. There are at least 3 types of cash, and I'm quoting a guy named Jack Bosch now from his book, Forever Cash. And in that book, Jack Bosch talks about these 3 types of cash. There's one-time cash, there's temporary cash, and there's forever cash. One-time cash is like wholesaling or flipping. Fix and flip. You know, wholesaling. You find a house, you wholesale it to a buyer, you get a check, you got one check, it's over. Fix and flip. You buy a house, you fixed it, you flipped it, you sold it, you get one check, it's over. One-time cash. Events. Okay? Learn to recognize those. Then there's temporary cash events. And that's like what I do with the seller financing strategy. I buy a house and then I sell it to my buyer. He gives me $10,000 or $15,000 down, and then he owes me payments for 10, 15, 20, 30 years. But eventually those payments run out. Those payments are not forever. Every mortgage has an end date. And so I'm doing a temporary cash strategy. What we need to learn to do is to take all the money that we make from the temporary cash strategies and the one-time cash strategies and roll them over into a forever cash strategy. A forever cash strategy is something that you do once and it pays until you decide to stop it. That would be like an apartment complex. You know, if you buy an apartment complex, then you rent those units out until you decide that you don't want to rent them out anymore and you want to sell the place. But that could go on forever, potentially. I chose not to deal in houses or apartments. I chose a forever cash strategy that involved self-storage units. I like the idea of renting these little 10 by 10 and 10 by 20 and 10 by 30 squares that didn't have carpet, hot water heaters, glass windows, only had one door and one light bulb and one light switch, and that was all that's in it. And I can choose to raise those rents by $3 and $4, $5 at a time, which is not much. But when you have 1,300 units and you raise all of them a little bit, it's a large amount of money. So I chose the storage business as my forever cash strategy. Okay, before I move on to unscrupulous partners and untransparent bookkeeping, let's take a little time to review that like button and that share button, get real interested in it, and then start mashing on them with your fingers, please, because we need to let people out there know that this YouTube channel exists, and without your help, they're not going to know. So please hit the like button, hit the share button, and of course, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe now because you'll want to stay tuned for all the valuable information we're going to be disseminating throughout the year. You know, when you go to the Get Rich seminars and talk to the gurus, and believe me, most of them are my friends and I love them to death, but a lot of the things they're not talking about are the uglier sides of the business. Some of the most ugly parts deal with bad partners because they didn't know what they were doing and they got you and them in trouble, or bad partners as they know exactly what they're doing and they're going to manipulate you out of your money or your interest. So be particularly careful with partners. Make sure that you do your research. Don't go in big with partners at first if you've just met them or you don't know them for a long time or you haven't been dealing with them. Try to do just one little deal at a time to see how things work. And remember, it's always a good partner when things are going good. You'll learn who your partner really is when a deal goes sideways or loses money. Then you'll know what kind of partner you have. Then we'll talk about untransparent bookkeeping. You need to be able to see the books all the time, and you need to be checking the books regularly, especially if you're in a new partnership, because everything always shows up in the money trail. So if you're following the money and the income and the expenses that are supposed to be happening at the rate they're supposed to be happening, at the cost that they're supposed to be happening, then you'll have a lot better chance of catching a problem before it gets too far out of hand. So the two biggest problems have always been partnerships that don't work and bookkeeping that's either not transparent or non-existent, because you can't start to see where the problems are. I've seen a lot of people get embezzled. I've seen a lot of secretaries completely wipe out their owners' bank accounts. I've seen it happen time after time, and it's heartbreaking. But let me tell you what I've learned can pretty much mitigate that. You have to set it up in your mind like a three-legged bar stool. If you have a three-legged bar stool kind of bookkeeping system where these three functions are separate, then it would take collusion between two or more parties for there to be any real embezzlement and not get caught. So just remember this when you're setting up your bookkeeping. Again, the person who makes the deposits, separate from the person who writes the checks, separate from the person who balances the bank accounts. It's pretty simple. The last thing a lot of people don't talk about when they're talking about this glamorous house flipping business is the need for large margins. You really do need to have large potential profit margins going into these deals because so many things can go wrong. I can't tell you how many times I've had a house that's supposed to make me $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 only to, at the end of the day, walk out with a measly $10,000. Thank God I had this huge margin because it absorbed all the things that I miscalculated or all the things that went wrong or how long I had to hold it, a multitude of things that went wrong, and so I still made some money. If you go into this business knowing that you need large margins, there'll be times that you don't make as much as you think you're going to make, but you'll still be making some money. If you go into this business with slim profit margins, any mistake can throw you out into the negative. You won't be in this business very long. Think about all the things that can go wrong in this business. Plumbing, roofing, electrical, title problems, survey encroachments, hail, theft, fire. From the time you pencil in how much you're supposed to make on a house, and every investor knows this, from the time you pencil that in, it's going backwards with every tick of the clock. If you think you're supposed to make 60, in an hour, it'll be less than 60. In 3 hours from now, it'll be less than that number. It keeps going backwards from the time that we sign up these houses. So make sure you have large margins. As promised, it's time for me to deliver that creative real estate investing webinar. So we're going to do that right now. Please go to 1000houses.com/free-stuff and scroll on that homepage right there until you see the link that reads Creative Real Estate Investing Webinar. Click on that. It'll be downloaded digitally to you, and you're going to be amazed at the business that I know and love. Seller finance strategy, how I buy and sell houses with seller financing and make a small fortune. I'm going to show you exactly how I do it in this webinar.